The studio lights were blinding. The air so cold it made Melania's carefully styled hair feel stiff against the back of her neck. She sat on a plush white couch that looked soft on camera, but felt like a steel trap underneath her. The audience in front of her was buzzing with the kind of excitement that made her stomach twist. She could see them whispering, phones held discreetly in their laps, no doubt live tweeting every second. Asterisk across from her, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett leaned back in her chair, one leg crossed over the other, exuding the calm authority of someone who knew she was about to detonate a bomb and had no intention of running from the blast. Between them, the host, a perfectly coiffed man named Greg Marshall, beamed at the camera as the opening music faded and the red light signaled they were live. Asterisk good evening, America, Greg said smoothly, his voice dripping with the false warmth of a man who lived for other people's scandals. Tonight, an exclusive that promises to shake things up. With me is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Welcome back, Jasmine. Asterisk Jasmine nodded politely to the audience, flashing her sharp, confident smile. Glad to be here, Greg. Asterisk and, of course, our very special guest tonight, former First Lady Melania Trump. Melania, thank you for agreeing to join us. Asterisk Melania's own smile flickered under the hot lights. She tilted her chin up, the way she'd practiced so many times before. It is my pleasure. I am here to speak about my Be Best Foundation and the good work we continue to do for children. Asterisk. Greg's grin widened as he interrupted, his voice sliding in like a knife. Absolutely. We'll get to that. But first, Congresswoman Crockett says she has, well, something that can't wait. Something that the American people deserve to hear. Isn't that right, Congresswoman? Asterisk Melania's gaze snapped to Jasmine, her hands tightening around the armrest so hard that her diamond ring bit into her skin. Jasmine sat forward now, elbows on her knees, a battered manila folder clasped in her manicured hands. She gave Melania a look that was half pity, half predator sizing up an easy kill. Asterisk yes, Greg, Jasmine said, her tone casual, as if they were chatting over coffee instead of on national television. I didn't come here to talk about politics as usual. I came here with receipts, real ones, documents the world has never seen. Asterisk the audience gasped, a low, collective inhale that filled the space like a held breath. Melania forced a tight laugh, her voice brittle. This is nonsense. I came here in good faith. Asterisk Jasmine didn't even blink. She tapped the folder against her knee, her eyes locked on Melania's. Good faith, that's rich coming from you, Melania. Because what's in here? Well, once we open this up, I don't think good faith is going to save you tonight. Asterisk Greg leaned back in his chair, satisfied, as the studio lights seemed to grow hotter and the audience leaned in, hungry for the wreckage about to unfold. Melania swallowed hard, her tongue thick in her mouth, the world closing in around her. She knew she should stand up, walk off, call her lawyers, but all she could do was stare at that folder in Jasmine's hands and pray that whatever was inside wasn't what she feared most. Jasmine didn't rush. She knew the moment demanded precision, not speed. She set the folder down on the small glass coffee table between them, her manicured nails tapping once on its battered surface. Melania's eyes flicked to the folder, then to the host, then to the audience, anywhere but directly at Jasmine, whose steady calm made the room feel smaller by the second. Asterisk Greg cleared his throat, trying to mask his glee with a veneer of professionalism. Congresswoman Crockett, you said you have evidence. May we see it? Asterisk a hush fell over the studio as Jasmine undid the clasp. It popped open with a soft snap that echoed like a gunshot in Melania's head. Slowly, Jasmine slid out a stack of dog-eared papers, a few faded photographs peeking from beneath the files. She placed them on the table with deliberate care, fanning them out just enough for the camera to catch a glimpse. Asterisk Melania's breath caught when she saw one of the photographs, a grainy black and white image, unmistakably her, younger, standing beside a man she'd hoped the world would never know about. She could already feel her throat tightening as if her pearls were strangling her. Asterisk Jasmine rested her forearms on her knees, leaning in until she and Melania were eye to eye. Her voice dropped to a lethal softness, every word clear enough to pierce bone. Mrs. Trump, care to tell America about your real origin story? Before the modeling contracts, before the jet-set parties in New York, before you became the trophy the Trump name paraded around, Melania's lips parted. Nothing came out. Her eyes darted toward Greg, silently pleading for him to intervene, to pivot to a commercial break, to save her. But Greg only leaned closer to Jasmine, hungry for the spectacle. Jasmine pulled a single page from the pile, holding it up to the studio lights so the cameras could zoom in. The audience squinted at the screen overhead. A court document, smudged with official seals and stamps, the name Melania Navs bold at the top, fraud. Jasmine said, tapping the page with her nail, "You used fake IDs to get into Italy. And this," she flipped to another document. This one in Slovenian, the translation stamped over it in English, "Identity theft, tax evasion. You were indicted, you fled. This isn't some rumor. This is court certified." A ripple of shocked murmurs rolled through the crowd. Somewhere in the back, someone gasped audibly. Greg leaned back in his chair, lips parted, his hand halfway to his earpiece as if the producers were screaming at him to keep it rolling. Melania forced a shaky laugh that died on her tongue. Before it became real, she tried to straighten her posture, but her shoulders wouldn't obey. This is old. It is lies. I was a child, old. Jasmine barked out a humorless laugh. You were 22, and you knew exactly what you were doing. The only reason nobody found this before is because marrying Donald Trump paid for enough lawyers to bury it. But the world is different now. Melania, we can dig up anything, even your past. Melania's breath was coming to fast. She could hear the audience, feel their eyes boring into her skin like a spotlight she couldn't escape. She opened her mouth again, but all that came out was a hoarse whisper. Stop this. But Jasmine didn't. She spread the rest of the papers out on the glass, her fingers deliberate, methodical, each document a nail in the coffin Melania could feel sealing shut around her. The cameras zoomed in for the nation to see every faded stamp, every official mark, every photo she'd hoped was lost forever. There was no commercial break. There was no rescue. Just the cold weight of the truth pressing down on her chest, as millions of eyes watched, hungry for the fall. The room felt suddenly too small for air. Melania could feel her pulse in her temples, in her throat, in her fingertips that dug into the armrests until her knuckles went white. She could hear Greg's voice somewhere behind the roaring in her ears, but the words blurred into static. Jasmine's steady, merciless stare was the only thing in focus, a spotlight she couldn't step out of, no matter how badly she wanted to run. Backstage, behind the bright panels and velvet curtains, Melania's handler, a weary man in a headset and an expensive suit, was barking into his mic, his eyes darting between the live feed on a monitor and the stage. Cut the feed, shut it down now, pull her mic, go to commercial. He pointed at a panicked producer, who only shook his head helplessly. The ratings are through the roof. The producer hissed back. They'll skin US alive if we cut it. Let it roll. She'll handle it. But the way he said it betrayed the truth. Everyone knew she wouldn't. On stage. Jasmine flicked through another document, her fingers calm as a surgeon's. You paid off the right people to bury this. You paid for sealed files, fake passports, new names, and then you paraded around telling Americans how to raise their kids, how to behave, what integrity looks like. She snorted, tossing the page down like an insult. You don't get to wear morality like a costume when this is who you are underneath. The audience was a single living thing now, gasping, murmuring, some holding up phones to record. The moment history might break, one woman near the front clutched her chest, eyes wide as she mouthed "Oh my God" to the person next to her. Greg looked like he'd been chained to his chair. He cleared his throat, voice trembling with the effort. To sound neutral, Mrs. Trump, do you want to respond to these allegations? For a second Melania thought she might. She opened her mouth, but all that came out was a strangled sound, half laugh, half sob. She pushed herself up from her chair so fast it toppled backwards with a sharp clatter. That snapped through the studio. You are disgusting. You are vultures. Her accent thickened under the strain. words tumbling out raw and uneven. She turned to Greg, jabbing a finger at him as though he were the real traitor here. You promised. You said this was about my charity. Greg's palms lifted helplessly, but he didn't stand. He was too busy leaning subtly toward the cameras. His eyes flicking to the blinking red light that promised this humiliation was still very much live. Melania spun back to Jasmine, her voice breaking on each word. You think you can destroy me with this? Lies, slander. You are nothing, a petty, jealous. Jasmine didn't flinch. She crossed her legs again, calm as ever, eyes locked on Melania's shaking figure. Walk out if you want. America already saw. They heard you. And this, she tapped the papers, her tone almost bored now. This is just the beginning. There's more where that came from. Run home to your lawyers. It won't matter this time. Somewhere near the back of the audience. Someone clapped. It started small, hesitant, then grew. Awkward at first, then bold as a few more joined in. The sound cracked through Melania's panic like thunder. She spun toward the side of the stage, her handler already hurrying forward, whispering urgent instructions into his mic. Security in dark suits moved closer, ready to shield her from the crush of reporters gathering at the edge of the stage. For a second, she turned back to the cameras, a flicker of the old mask, that polished marble facade that had graced magazine covers and White House portraits, but it was cracked now, the fear leaking through the thin smile that wouldn't hold. Then she turned and stormed off, heels stabbing the floor, leaving her toppled chair and the scattered pages of her hidden life for the cameras to devour. Behind her, Jasmine calmly gathered the rest of the documents into her lap, her expression unreadable as the host struggled to regain control of the show. But the audience no longer cared what he said. They were still clapping, and Melania's footsteps, muffled by the heavy studio doors slamming shut behind her, were the only answer she could give. Outside the studio, the night air was thick with humidity, and the electric buzz of news vans parked bumper to bumper. Along the curb, camera crews scrambled for position as Melania burst through the glass doors, flanked by two grim-faced security men who closed ranks around her like a moving wall. Flashbulbs exploded in her face, the staccato pop of a dozen photographers, shouting her name, each one hoping for that perfect shot, the once untouchable First Lady with panic carved into every line of her face. She ducked her head, but the lights found her anyway. The shouts followed her as she stumbled toward a waiting black SUV idling by the curb. Her handler, still barking orders into his headset, pushed through the knot of reporters pressing microphones over each other's shoulders. Melania, is it true? Did you lie about your identity? Mrs. Trump, are you going to respond to Congresswoman Crockett's evidence? Is Donald backing you up? Has he seen the documents? The questions slammed into her one after another like cold rain. She kept her head down, lips pressed so tight they turned white, her designer heels slipping on the slick pavement as she climbed awkwardly into the back seat. The door slammed shut, drowning out the noise, but the cameras stayed glued to the tinted window, catching a fleeting glimpse of her pale face in the harsh glow of a spotlight. Before the SUV lurched away from the curb. Inside the car, the handler hissed into his phone, voice low but urgent. Get legal on standby. Full damage control. Get Fox lined up. We need a statement. He paused when he realized she wasn't listening. Melania stared out the window, one manicured hand pressed to her mouth to hold back whatever wanted to escape. A sob, a scream, a confession. Even she couldn't tell. Back inside the studio, the atmosphere was electric, part carnival, part funeral. The audience hadn't budged. Many were still standing, phones high, faces lit by the screens as they breathlessly posted their clips to social media. On stage, Jasmine sat calm and composed, the stack of papers now neatly arranged in front of her like a conquered battlefield. Greg tried to steer the show back into familiar territory, but the mask had slipped from him too. The practiced grin now tinged with disbelief at the spectacle he'd just hosted. Well, America, you saw it here first. Congresswoman Crockett, any final words for our viewers tonight? Jasmine didn't look smug, didn't gloat. She simply leaned forward, her voice carrying easily in the hush that had fallen over the room. The truth always catches up. Some people spend their whole lives thinking they can outrun it. Money, power, privilege, none of it matters forever. And when that truth finds them, it doesn't knock politely. It kicks the door down. She gathered the documents into her bag with quiet finality as the studio lights dimmed. Greg thanked the audience, but most of them barely heard him. They were already on their feet, buzzing, already texting, already uploading clips that would hit millions of screens before dawn. Outside, the SUV carrying Melania slipped into the darkness beyond the reach of the cameras. For a moment, the street was quiet again, save for the distant wail of sirens and the drone of news choppers circling overhead like vultures, waiting for the next piece to fall. Inside the car, Melania sat perfectly still, staring at her own reflection. In the black window, a woman she didn't recognize anymore, pressed flat against the glass by the weight of secrets that had finally broken free. In the echo of the studio applause she'd left behind, she realized with a cold, sinking certainty that there was no statement polished enough to bury this truth again. Somewhere, back on the studio stage, the cameras caught Jasmine's last glance at the empty chair and the faintest, tired smile that flickered across her face before the credits rolled and the lights cut to black.